Systems work, people fail. Welcome to InsureMark's Advisor Mentorship Podcast with Vice President Jeremy Jhouser, where we share proven systems and processes for the 21st century advisor. Today, it's essential that advisors find a way to differentiate themselves from the competition. Learn how to elevate your game and accomplish incredible feats as Jeremy teaches you how to build a more successful and sustainable business while realizing a better work-life balance is not only possible, but achievable.
First quarter is officially in the books for 2022, and wow, did it fly. We are a couple weeks into Q2, and do you ever feel like some days are just a grind? Welcome to this week's episode of the Advisor Mentorship Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Jhouser, and I have a special guest on today's show who knows a thing or two about pushing forward and dealing with adversity. You may have actually seen our guest, Austin Hatch, on ESPN a couple years back with his heartfelt story, and I must say it is an honor getting to know him recently. How are we doing today, Austin?
Doing great, Jeremy. Thanks so much for having me on. Really appreciate it.
No, appreciate you taking a couple minutes out of your day to chat with us here. So do you mind sharing with the audience a little bit about who is Austin Hatch?
Yeah, well, I'm blessed to be married to the girl of my dreams today, and life's good, and I'm so blessed to have the opportunity to be a husband to my wife Abby, and hopefully someday soon a family of our own. But fortunately, growing up, I was involved in two tragic plane accidents. The first of which was when I was 8 years old, 2003. Claimed the life of my mom Julie, who was 38 at the time, my dad's high school sweetheart, my sister Lindsay, who was 11, about to turn 12 a week later, and my little brother Ian, who was only 5, tragically, and incomprehensible loss. Right, it's really the only word I can describe it with, incomprehensible. But my dad and I found a way to press on and keep living in the midst of that. I don't think that's ever something you really ever, get past. Like, it's never going to be like in the background. You just kind of learn to live with it, which we did, and find a way to honor our family that tragically passed away, and how we lived our life and kept finding a way to push forward in the midst of the loss. And eventually my dad was remarried, a lovely woman named Kimberly, who had 3 kids of her own. We had a great blended family, restored some normalcy in my life, and my dream was always to play basketball at the University of Michigan. And I was working hard on my skills. It got to be pretty good, fortunately. Had to get a lot better, but I had some success on the court, and Coach Beeline from Michigan offered me a scholarship to play for him on June 15th, 2011, which I accepted on the spot. As I said, it was my dream to play for Michigan, and look forward to having a great career, hopefully. But then, 9 days later, tragically, I was involved in a second plane crash that took the life of my dad and my second mom. It almost killed me as well. I was in a coma for 2 months, and by the grace of God, nothing else, I came out of the coma and had to learn how to walk and talk, and basically how to live life again. Made the decision early on that I was going to find a way to overcome that and find a way to make it to Michigan. Coach Beeline was so gracious to honor my scholarship, which is something else I talk about, the way he followed through on his commitment to me. But he came to see me in the hospital in Chicago in August of 2011. I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair. And he told me, he said, "Austin, I can't wait to coach you, man. Can't wait to have you on my team. Whenever you're able to come to Michigan, I can't wait to coach you." So a lot of things had to happen to overcome those challenges I was facing. A lot of people contributed to my recovery for sure, but I think more than anything, it took some grit. It took some grit to overcome, to find a way to make it to Michigan. So blessed to have had an amazing team around me that helped me overcome and get better.
And what actually attracted, and obviously also it's just, you're literally a miracle of being here. And I've seen a couple of videos with your sisters talking about it, and it's so true. I mean, literally, it is a miracle that we're even talking here today. Going to Michigan, so what did that mean to you, or what really drew you in high school to want to go to Michigan? And obviously that happened before the second plane crash, but what actually drove you to want to go to that school? Because you're out of Indiana, right? Or you grew up in Indiana?
Yep, I'm from Fort Wayne, Indiana originally, but my mom went to Michigan. My dad did research at Michigan before going to medical school at Wake Forest. We had season football tickets growing up, so I grew up going to football games in the fall. When I was really little. Probably went to my first game when I was like 2 or 3. So it's been in my family for years, and both my grandpas went there, so it's always my dream to continue the family tradition of going to Michigan. And obviously it's a great school. great program. But I think that the biggest thing, the biggest attraction is Coach Beeline, one of the greatest men of all time, as far as I'm concerned. My dad, Coach Beeline, those two guys, two of the greatest ever, as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, he got obviously it's a great school academically as well, which was important, and a great program, great coach, great school. I mean, it's Michigan, right? So yeah, all play there. I'm so grateful and so humbled that Coach saw something in me that made him want to give me an opportunity to go play for him.
And the power of him to actually say that to you in probably one of the weakest moments of your life, that it's the commitment, like you mentioned earlier, of saying, I can't wait to coach you one day. And you said it was 9 days before the actual crash, you were already committed?
Yeah. So June 15th is the first day that college coaches can call sophomores in high school based on the NCAA compliance issues. So June 15th, 2011, 1:45 p.m. I remember the call clear as day. And he offered me a scholarship. We committed to each other that day because commitment's a two-way street. He offers me a scholarship. I commit to him. He commits to me. And look forward to having a great career there. But then, so last time you saw me play was at the Michigan camp, the camp they have just for recruits. And I was, I played at a pretty high level. I was running and dunking and scoring and doing well. And then he offered me a scholarship over the phone on June 15th. The next time he saw me, in a wheelchair, couldn't walk. So, it's just the integrity that he showed to follow through on his commitment, especially when there's a drastic change in circumstance. I mean, it's like, well, as I mentioned, one of the things I talk about, and from a leadership standpoint, from an organizational, cultural standpoint, right? If we all can have that level of integrity, and everybody on the team knows that if we make a commitment to them, there's no doubt in their mind that we're going to follow through, regardless of circumstance. I feel like that can only help us win. So,
and you actually, so when you were rehabbing, so with that integrity, with that commitment from the coach, and then you as well too, because you wanted to get out there and play. So can you talk to the audience a little bit about what goes through your mind? I mean, I can't even put myself in your shoes. The mindset you had, where you said you couldn't walk, so you said you couldn't even talk after the second crash. So during that time in your life, like, and this is number 2. So what pushes you? Tell us a little bit about what's going on in your head moving forward after that terrible, terrible tragedy.
Yeah, well, I think so. What I learned from playing sports my whole life, you don't really play sports. You don't really play halfway. You don't try to tie the game. You're not trying to win. You're not trying to maybe win.
Mm-hmm.
Yourself the best chance. You're trying to give yourself the best chance to win. And I looked at the adversity that I faced, the obstacles, the injury, just as another opponent. Like my dad always said from an early age, he said, "Oh, it's go big or go home, man. Go big or go home. You owe it to yourself to not go halfway. Go big or go home." And it's like I was like, okay. So to get to Michigan, I started working out before school when I was 11 years old, and I had to go big to make it to Michigan, right? And it was like to make it back to Michigan after experiencing the injuries that in the tragedy that I did is like, okay, you got to go big. But by already going big before and already knowing how to work hard and how to grind, so to speak, like just didn't do anything different. You just kind of just had the same mentality towards a different goal. It's like, so the goal before was to be the best player, the best basketball player that I could be. Who knows how good it would have been? No guarantees. No one knows. I'll never know. It's just fine. But the process of the work ethic, the commitment that instilled in me, working hard to be the best that I could be. As I said, when the second plane accident happened and I came out of the coma by the grace of God, okay, let's go big or go home again.
And you mentioned the word grit, and I know because you do a lot of speaking engagements and a lot of things, spreading your message. It's incredible. I think you told me the number, and I think you've calculated it, or you figured out like what the percentages are for two tragic actual plane crashes. What So you said grit. So I know you talk a lot about that during your public speaking. So how do you define grit, or what does grit mean to Austin?
Yeah, well, so like I said before, to overcome the challenges I faced, a lot of things had to happen. A lot of people contributed to my recovery for sure. Couldn't have done it without everybody. Took everybody on the team. People across the country that prayed for me that I'll never meet, that I'll never even know. As far as I'm concerned, those people helped me overcome too. And so it took everybody. But my friend Angela Duckworth at University of Pennsylvania, some people on the call may have heard, who are listening to this may have heard of her. She wrote the New York Times bestseller on the topic of grit. And she says that grit's passion and perseverance for the long-term vision, for long-term goals. That's true. Like coming from where I was coming out of a hospital, coming out of a coma, Michigan was a long-term goal, very long-term, right? So grit did apply. Grit definitely applied to achieving the long-term goal, but I also feel that grit applied every single day. How can we expect to achieve the long-term vision if we're not winning every single day, one day at a time? So grit to me is defined a little more specifically than just working hard for the long-term goal. So it's 4 letters. There's 4 key components to grit, I believe. But first and foremost, grit's driven by a greater purpose. I believe we need to work for something bigger than ourselves, whether that's your faith, your family, your friends, your colleagues, teammates, the organization. Hopefully all of us are somewhat internally driven to be the best we can be every day. But I think having a greater purpose is very important, because that greater purpose, I believe, will drive us to find a way to thrive in the midst of challenges, especially when it's hard, right? I'd like to think we're all internally driven to be the best we can be. And I'd like to think that I had some internal drive to overcome and persevere, but that can only take you so far. So I think that, but if I remember if I feel how I respond to the challenges I face with, I got honor my family in heaven every single day. How am I not going to give everything I had to my recovery if I feel that I can honor my family every single day? So, and now my purpose is also my wife, right? And I've been married to the girl of my dreams for 4 years, and so it's still my family. It's my faith still, obviously, but it's also my wife. Someday it'll be our kids. So that was the purpose that drove me to recover. As it was my family in heaven, and now my purpose now to work hard, build this business, inspire people, impact lives is my wife, and someday it'll be our kids. So when you have that greater purpose, it'll drive grit at all times, but especially in the face of adversity. So the G, the first letter, stands for the growth mindset. The growth mindset believes that every setback, every failure, every adversity is really an opportunity. We don't grow from the challenges we face, but we can always grow from how we choose to respond. I'm reminded of how at Michigan, Coach Beilein would always talk about the growth mindset. It was actually one of our big core values in Michigan. And we didn't lose that many games over my 4 years, but whenever we would lose, unfortunately, Coach would come in the locker room and he'd always say, we're going to watch the film of the game and we're going to find a way to get better from it. We're going to watch the film and find a way to get better from it. We don't grow from losing, but you grow from choosing to find learning opportunities in the challenge or in the adversity. So I think in life too, we all face challenges, right? Obviously, COVID's terrible. I hope the impact it's had and the lives it's taken, it's been terrible. But I think there are lessons we can learn from it, because I don't think learning how to win in a different way will ever be a bad thing. So when you have that growth mindset, it'll drive us to make the decision to be resilient. That's the R. The R is the decision to be resilient. Mr. Webster, the dictionary defines resilience as, something like bouncing back to how you were before after experiencing some sort of adversity or challenge or something like that. I don't think resilience is bouncing back to how you were before, though. It's not. I completely disagree with that. I think resilience is taking the massive action in the face of adversity that will enable us to find a different way to win. Not lower our standards for ourselves, still achieve the same goals, but just in a different way. Like, I wanted to get to Michigan and I was going there to play basketball and hope to help the team win. That was the plan before. The second plane crash happened, 9 days later, as I said, almost killed me. I was going to make it to Michigan one way or another. And when I got to Michigan, though, I couldn't really play, but it's taking massive action to find a different way to win, to find a different way to achieve our goals. So the I in grit is integrity. Of course, we all know that integrity is about doing the right thing and no one's looking, being honest, going about our business the right way. Of course, that's true. But in addition, I believe integrity is about following through on our commitments, especially when our circumstances change. Coach Beilein offered me a scholarship and I was playing at a pretty high level, June 15th, 2011. The second plane crash happened 9 days later, almost killed me. And when I wasn't in any shape to play. I was in a wheelchair, I couldn't walk. And he told me that he can't wait to have me on his team someday. He can't wait to coach me. I couldn't walk. I've got a lot of friends in the NBA now that went to Michigan, really good players. And he told a kid that couldn't walk, he can't wait to coach him. So his follow through and his commitment didn't waver, even though the circumstances drastically changed. I think about that from an organizational, cultural, collaborative perspective, right? If we can all do that, if we can all have our follow through and our commitments be a no-brainer, regardless of circumstance, I feel like that can only help us win. That can only help us win, doing that consistently over a long period of time. Everybody on the team following through and everything we say we're going to do all the time. So a lot of people do it. I would argue every person makes a commitment every day of some kind. But if following through on that commitment, especially if there's a change in circumstance, is uncommon. I believe following through on our commitments when there's a change in circumstance is doing a common thing in an uncommon way. It's doing a common thing in an uncommon way. And the result of doing the common things in an uncommon way consistently, I believe, we're going to leave people in places better than we found them. What more can we ask of anybody than to consistently leave people in places better than we found them? So my dad was one of the greatest men of all time, one of the greatest of all time. He just incredible. Everything that's good about humanity was my dad. And he taught me everything I know. He was a doctor, treated pain management in Fort Wayne, had a good little clinic, really busy guy. Would see 50 or 60 patients every day, usually skipped lunch, would work 7:30 to 5:30 straight through, just grinding every single day. Mm-hmm. We'd go to McDonald's on the way to school 2 days a week, Wednesdays and Fridays, when my dad would drive carpool. And the cashier who was always there at McDonald's was a guy named Josiah. And Josiah was always there. My dad would always take an extra couple seconds. Instead of just giving the food and driving away, he would take an extra 2 or 3 seconds to tell Josiah he appreciated him, that made him feel valued, that he was important because he was, right? And that little extra effort my dad would give twice a week for a couple seconds. The connection he made with Josiah, I learned from a family friend last summer that Josiah from McDonald's on DuPont Road in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Josiah was at my parents' funeral after my dad and second mom passed away after the second plane crash. So again, I haven't seen Josiah in 11 years since the last time we were at McDonald's, but I think the reason Josiah wanted to celebrate my dad's life after he was already gone is because my dad left Josiah a little better than he found him by doing a common thing in an uncommon way. Very common to go to McDonald's, get your coffee, get your breakfast sandwich. Very common. But it's uncommon to take time to invest in the servers, the people, right? The people don't really think matter. It's not common to take an extra effort and make those people feel appreciated and valued. So if we can all do that again, I'll take that extra 2 or 3 seconds twice a week, metaphorically speaking, to invest in people and let them know they're appreciated and valued. So last letter is T. T to me is the team first mentality. I think we should always think about the team first. We should train ourselves to think we before me. Jeremy, I don't know if you actually knew this before today. I'm actually in the record books at Michigan. I'm the all-time lowest scoring full scholarship athlete in program history. Nobody will ever be on a full ride 4 years and score less than 1 point. It won't happen. It won't happen. But my role on the team was to be a great teammate, shag balls in practice, unload lugs on road trips, work hard every day to be the best that I could be, and think about the team first and do whatever I could, whatever the team needed that day. With helping with drills, encouraging my teammates, bringing energy, right? It didn't matter. So if you have that team first mentality, remember that everybody on the team matters and every role matters. Our role is important, whatever it is, doesn't matter. So I think if we have some grit in the face of adversity, if we're driven by a greater purpose, have the growth mindset, look for the opportunity in adversity, if we're just make the decision to be resilient, we take massive action in the face of adversity, which will enable us to win it in a different way, achieve our goals in a different way. If we have integrity, we always follow through on our commitments, especially when our circumstances, we do the common thing in a common way consistently. Lastly, if we have the team first mentality, always think about the team first. Remember, every person on the team matters. Everybody has a role. Mm-hmm. If we have some grit, I don't want to say I'm going to guarantee you we're going to achieve every goal we ever set for our team, but I feel like we're going to have a pretty good chance. So.
And do you think grit is actually taught, or do you think we're just born with it?
I think it's learned. I think we're a product of our environment. I think maybe there's some people that are more innately teammates, or maybe some people are more innately positive, more innately resilient. Right. But it's like, I think we're a product of what we see, and we're a product of who we surround ourselves with. And I think from a team standpoint,
True,
we can all lead by example. Doesn't matter the title, doesn't matter the rank in the organization, whether you're at the top or more junior, doesn't matter. We can all lead by example. And I feel like if people will notice too, it doesn't matter who you are. Like, people will notice by setting an example of being resilient, of being positive, of bringing energy, of being a great teammate. People are going to notice. So,
and being a product of who we are around us. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Because I mean, of all people, I know it takes who knows how many people, like you mentioned earlier, around you to get you through that tough time. So can you elaborate a little bit more on what do you mean by those around us? Do you feel like others, if being around those that you want to do business with, or being around those that possibly just make you a better person, you think that drives people to want to be better? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we can all be those people too, right? That make people want to be better. Because I think it starts with us. We can't always expect other people to set the examples for us. I think we got to take it upon ourselves to set the example for others. And a lot of the time, to change the behavior of people in an organization, or like change the behavior of your group of friends or your colleagues or whatever, it starts with one person. And so, I mean, we can all just decide to be that person. You know, we've all heard the saying, be the change you want to see, or be the example you be, or set the example you wish you had, or something like that, right? That's true though. I mean, if we can't always expect other people to act first. Sometimes we got to be the one to put our foot forward first, and, you know, take the first step and lead the team by example. So,
and to those that are maybe someone who's listening today, so maybe they're going through a tough time in their life. What's some advice that you would give them to help them through maybe the tough times that they're going through today?
Yeah, I think, as I said, remember that greater purpose, or find something. If you've never thought about that purpose behind why you do what you do, like, think about whatever it is, whether it's your family, your colleagues, your faith, whatever. I think find that purpose, because I really believe that will drive us to do what it takes. Like, right? Like, there's sometimes stuff that I don't want to do. And yeah, tasks in business or whatever. My wife is counting on me. She's counting on me to go all in in this business, to go big, right? Like I said, go big or go home. My wife's counting on me to go big. Someday our kids will be counting on their dad to go big. And it's like, yeah, it may be inconvenient. I may not want to stay after hours, or give this extra hour to this project or whatever, but it's like, hey, my team's counting on me, my wife's counting on me, my family's counting on me to be the best that I can be. So I think, yeah, just the purpose is very important. And I also think that I want to encourage everybody listening, really set a standard for yourself. Because I think if we really set a standard for ourselves, I think we'll do whatever we can to live up to that standard, regardless of circumstance. Whatever your standard is, right? Like, whether it's achievement related, or process related, or accountability related, or commitment, or integrity, or whatever it is. If we have a standard, I think we'll do whatever we can to live up to that standard, regardless of circumstance. So
that's good stuff. And so today, what are we doing? It's 2022. So what's Austin up to now? I know you mentioned to me last time you spoke at a large gathering. So what's on the itinerary for 2022 for you, and what you're currently doing?
Yeah, so we're just trying to build this business, the speaking business, as big as we can. Like my dad said, go big or go home. Yeah, so, you know, been very blessed to speak to a lot of great companies in financial services, the likes of Northwestern Mutual, Pacific Life, Prudential, John Hancock, Edward Jones, a lot of great organizations. So very grateful for that, and going to try to keep spreading my message, keep building the business, impact people one person at a time. And yeah, just grateful for any and all opportunities. So yeah, I gotta, it's gonna be a pretty good month of April. Always trying to push more to do more.
Sure.
But yeah, it's gotta kind of bloom where we're planted too. Got to bloom where we're planted. Whatever stage of life we're in, I think we gotta just kind of go big in this moment, in this stage. And then the future goals, I think will kind of, I don't want to say fall into place, but I feel like if we control the controllables today and do what we can to prepare ourselves to achieve the goals we have down the road, I feel like we'll have a pretty good chance of achieving those goals if we control the things that we control. So
I'm definitely taking that from you, by the way. Bloom where you're planted.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Right. Because
it's true though.
Like everybody on the call is planted in a different stage of life, whether it's career wise, family wise, whatever it is. Like, I'm not a gardener. I don't plant flowers, but it's like, you don't like, sometimes I don't know. I feel like the soil may not always be the best. I hope it will be. Like the environment you find yourself in, you obviously hope for favorable conditions, but sometimes they're not going to be. Sometimes you're going to be put in a tough situation. Okay, you can still make the most of it, and you can still find a way to bloom, even though you're planted in a place that's less than ideal, if you know what I mean. So,
no, I appreciate that. And you mentioned, so you rattled off actually. So a lot of the advisors or a lot of the people that listen to this are actual financial professionals, advisors, insurance advisors. And so you mentioned a lot of companies that some of them have actually heard of. So what got your interest, or how did you even get started speaking in the financial industry? Or obviously you speak in numerous industries, but is there any specific, what got you into the financial one?
Yeah, well, I start with one or a couple. Maybe so I spoke to Northwestern Mutual in Michigan, July 30th, 2020, and I've since spoken to 18 other offices. There's 78 total Northwestern Mutual officers, so I still have 60 more to hit. But yeah, it's kind of like one becomes two to four, and so it's been great. And I think about my message. Because for advisors, right, or for salespeople, there's always adversity, there's always rejection. People always say no, but it's how you bounce back from it. We've all heard that, and I really think that the way we live our lives every day, I think we need to prepare ourselves for the big one.
Yeah.
Not live our lives in fear that maybe the big one's going to come tomorrow or next week, but live our lives in a way that prepares us for it. As I said before, with the adversity that I faced after both accidents, but especially the second one, I was trying to go big or go home in basketball and in school and in life, and then began to have some success. Got an opportunity to go play for Michigan, and then the second plane crash happened 9 days later. The mentality didn't change; just the goal did. The goal. I was just trying to make the greatest recovery that I could possibly make. So I think if we just establish that mentality to just go big or go home and prepare ourselves for the big one, I think that's a good one to have. And so from a financial services standpoint, I'm not in financial services, but I feel like financial organizations exist to help prepare clients and families for the big one. Whether that's saving for college, saving for a house, saving for a car, or whatever it is, you're preparing for the big one, right? You're preparing to be able to live life on your terms and have the freedom to live the way you want to live. And then also from an insurance standpoint, we don't get insurance because, you know what? I know, actually, for a fact, I know that on, June 27th, 2027, I'm going to have a really devastating loss, and it's going to impact my family. You don't know that, right? Mm-hmm. You get insurance to prepare for it, so that if and when it comes, obviously I hope and pray nobody on the call ever experiences any kind of loss or tragedy. But I've kind of learned it's better to have something need it than it is to need it and not have it. Yeah, like have an accident happen. Yeah, man, I wish I would have got that insurance, 5 years ago or whatever. When I had that conversation with my advisor, I was close to buying insurance, but I didn't at the time. Like, What happened to me? Yeah, maybe the specifics, the plane crashes, the two plane crashes, that may be unrelatable to people. Fortunately, most people can't relate to that, which I thank God for. But everybody's going to experience adversity. Everybody's going to experience a big challenge, a big trial at some point. So it's kind of a no-brainer to get that insurance or prepare financially for it. Right? Like, why wouldn't you prepare? It's kind of like my wife. We're getting ready to go on a little trip and leaving tomorrow morning. And she's, I feel like she's got enough clothes for a month. I pack in a little carry-on. I'm good for a while. But I mean, she's practically moving to where we're going. But she's prepared for whatever could come her way. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And like from a life standpoint, from a finance standpoint, from a business standpoint, insurance, why wouldn't we do what we can to prepare and to mitigate the risk as best we can? You know what I mean?
No, I agree. And I'm sure several advisors listening to this right now are definitely agree. It's a greater message that a lot of people, unfortunately, for whatever it's worth, a lot of people are very anti things that happen to really help with wealth distribution and safety and guarantees. So no, that's interesting. I'm just curious with regards to speaking with financial services, what the opportunities are and how that's been for you. So I know we're wrapping up here. Is there anything that we missed or anything you'd like to mention to the audience here as we wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, just thank you to all the financial professionals listening to this. If there's anything that I can ever do to share my story and message with your team, your organization, I'd be honored and grateful for any and all opportunities. So, Jeremy has my info, and he can feel free to pass it on to anybody you want to. And yeah, if there's anything else that I can do to add value to your team, your business in any way, Jeremy, don't hesitate to reach out.
I definitely will. And if you don't mind, share with the audience again, what's the website for yours? For your company?
My website's www.austin-hatch.com. All lowercase. Austin-hatch.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Austin. And thank you to the listener for checking out this week's episode of the Advisor Mentorship Podcast. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite listening device so you do not miss any future episodes. And remember, in a world full of betas, be an alpha.
Thank you for listening to the InsureMark Advisor Mentorship Podcast with Vice President Jeremy Jhouser. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available, and connect with Jeremy on LinkedIn to stay up to date. If you would like to request our introduction kit, feel free to check out www.advisormentorship.com and click on Learn More. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of InsureMark. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. Thank you for listening to the InsureMark, the Advisor Mentorship Podcast with InsureMark Vice President Jeremy Jhouser.